Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Lucas Martin, the voice of Arthur Winnipeg and his contact, who I still don't think has really a name yet.
And I'm Morgan Lane. I wrote The Crash of the Mellifera, and I'm the voice of Worker B.
For this month, we have a Q&A with Morgan. And before we begin, I have one housekeeping item to take care of. Season 2, we initially planned to start it in early 2023, 2024. And that is going to be pushed back just slightly. So, yeah.
It'll probably be, we're going to shoot for March. No promises, but we're going to shoot for March.
And if anything changes, we will keep you updated. And hopefully we will continue to upload at least bonus material throughout this wait, so you still have something.
It'll be worth the wait. Everyone remembers that.
All right, but for this month, we have a Q&A, as I said. So I have some questions lined up from Morgan, and this is just about the podcast and general questions regarding the podcast.
You shouldn't have.
I know. Okay, overall,
Mm-hmm.
What sorts of things have influenced your writing with Mellifera?
I feel like a lot of times the reason I write is because of what I don't see. Well, for instance, you have the trope of the evil AI that's over everything and that, destroys, kills a bunch of people, and then finally it's overthrown and it's this huge heroic moment, and it's like, not every media does that immediately, but there's a part of me that relates very strongly to the AI and robot characters. So the idea of, oh, well, they were the bad guy, they had no redeeming qualities, and then they're gone, and you're not supposed to relate to them at all, kind of throws me a little bit. And especially because when there's a robot uprising, well, you know what that sounds a lot like? Not great at all.
Like how Overwatch handled its Omnic uprising thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Nelly.
I will say, as far as the humor and stuff, this is gonna be ridiculous, but I feel like, honestly, Valve's games Portal and TF2 have kind of influenced my writing a lot.
That honestly doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, TF2, just because of the absolutely bonkers backstory that unfolds, and just the way that the characters bounce off each other, and it's this weird, just larger than life world. And then Portal, because it's Portal. GLaDOS is amazing. Everyone loves GLaDOS. She has some of the most hilarious lines, and just the entire premise of Portal was just brilliant. So yeah.
Do you have any podcasts that have inspired you?
Obviously there's been a few. Really enjoyed Wolf 359. Media like that, podcasts like that, really showcase what you can do with the medium as a storytelling vessel, and it's really cool. I loved listening to all the little twists and turns and how it starts off really goofy and then got really serious. And also, for a very different reason, the Magnus Archives, that's more because I heard that they were able to record their first few seasons, or maybe just the first season, in the guy's apartment with, under blankets. And so I was like, oh, well, I can do that. I have a room. I have blankets. I just need to buy microphones. And since I've already, I've always been writing anyways, the idea of doing something in script format where I could perform it was just really intriguing to me.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And moving off still from the inspiration train, what's the inspiration behind the two main characters, Worker Bee and Winnipeg?
Well, Winnipeg came into being, a lot of Crash of the Mellifera has its roots in just doing kind of, sometimes they called it communal storytelling, but really it was role-playing. With other writers.
We've all done it.
Yeah, it's great. It's a wonderful way to figure your guys out. But a friend of mine was in a role play, and they were like, hey, if you join, you could have this this bounty hunter guy who's, chasing my character. And so I was like, okay. And I made up Winnipeg. And then I liked him too much for him to just, be a bad guy forever and have no redeeming qualities or anything else going on with him. So he became more of his own thing. As far as what inspired him, well, the setting was kind of steampunk. It wasn't actually sci-fi.
So he was just kind of fulfilling a role.
Yeah, he was fulfilling a role, and it just kind of built from there. So the answer for Winnipeg is whatever was buried in my brain that was like, oh, it'd be cool to have this guy who was really good at it.
I do have a story about Winnipeg to share. When Morgan and I first met, it was through a storytelling contest, I'll call it.
Yeah.
And when I was introduced to Winnipeg as a character back then, and this was almost 10 years ago, I was like, he's really cool. I get really big trans vibes from him. You don't have to do anything with it, but that's just kind of like my headcanon for him. I want to think of him as being trans, even though he's not. And everyone was like, okay, that's fine. And then 2 or 3 years later, she sends me a message saying, so your thing about your headcanon about Winnipeg being trans, I can't really get that out of my mind. So I think he's just going to be trans now. And I was like, score 1 for me.
So I guess in some ways, you're the inspiration for Winnipeg.
Aww.
Worker Bee is kind of, kind of inspired by GLaDOS a little bit, but in a very what do you mean? I believe everything I'm doing. I really am trying to help you kind of way. Also just so there's a book, Brave New World, which, everyone knows about that book. It's been around for a while. And I read the first part of it, and then I got tired of the main character, so I skipped to see what happened with Bernard, and then I skipped to the end and found out that the main character, spoiler alert, main character does die. And I was like, okay. And I don't know, the idea of kind of a dystopian world and stuff is very, that's a very interesting thing to me. But I like to examine things in a much more kind of, manic, bouncy, kind of,
ridiculous, TF2.
Ridiculous like TF2, satirical kind of way. And, I don't know, having a character who is just completely taken in by the powers that be, not a fascist government as much as just a corporation, but having a character that is in that position and completely taken in, that resonates with me on a personal level, and also just works really well for a protagonist of a satire. So there you go.
Very cool. What are you hoping that people will get out of listening to this podcast?
I hope that they I hope they like the characters, obviously. I hope they relate to the characters and their plights. I hope that they're able to... A lot of it is kind of just me trying to communicate a lot of the stuff that goes on in my own head, and that I have a very hard time expressing in another way. Because there's a lot of... I feel like there has been a large part of my life where, in a way, I kind of was Worker Bee. Not in the, I have control over other people's lives and I'm going to terrorize them by trying to, I don't know, make them be on a talk show over my intercoms sort of thing. But just thinking, well, of course I'm supposed to do this for, so long as I just do the right thing at the company or wherever I work or in life, the government, whatever, then everything's going to be just fine. And I just have to keep doing what I'm supposed to do. And the people who are in charge are supposed to be in charge. And it's great. And so I've kind of been in that position before. And I feel like Worker Bee is a very good vessel for kind of, teasing out a little bit of that and being like, okay, what does it feel like to be in that position and to have it slowly crumble around you, or to realize that maybe the world's a lot more complicated than you thought it was. And I hope that there's a lot of questions like that people can I don't know, maybe examine for themselves, or just, that other people who have been in that situation, because my experiences are not, unique.
Universal, yeah.
Yeah, they can, I'm sure that there's other people out there who have felt that same thing and who have had similar growing up stories, I guess, as mine. So, yeah, if they can get anything of that from it and both be entertained and maybe just be able to reconcile with any part of themselves in that way, that'd be pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Or they can just laugh at the jokes. Hey, that's cool too.
I just laugh at the jokes, honestly. I'm perfect in every way, so.
Sure, yeah.
Cool. What was the most fun thing about making season 1?
The most fun thing.
Funnest thing?
No, most fun I think is still correct. I might be wrong. I don't know. I think just the process of seeing the script turn into an actual finished product. And I know that's a pretty vague, overarching answer. I might be able to get something more specific here in a minute, but
that's fine. Kind of, it's nice when you have like this huge thing with a bunch of moving parts, and as you near the end, it's all coming together into the finished project, and I guess it matches kind of what you were hoping it would be.
Yeah.
Not perfectly.
Yeah, I have a problem with perfectionism.
But it's just kind of like you see it all come together in its finished state, and you can look back at what you did and be like, I did that. And
exactly.
While it may not be like the most perfect best thing ever, I still did that.
I think it is the best thing ever. No.
That's me.
Yeah. Wow. I've lived with you too long, Lucas.
Well, nobody asked me, but my favorite part of season 1 was hearing all of our friends, their recorded voice acting.
Oh gosh.
I liked that, and I liked also how excited everyone was.
You know what? I think gosh.
I mean, you can still have your favorite thing. You don't have to copy me and my perfection.
Hey, Lucas, I mean, you reminded me of how great that was. Like, I remember recording with Rihanna, who does the voice of Sierra Savannah, and just, like, the joy that she takes in being just this giant Karen is, like, the funniest thing to me. And I don't want to, single her out and be like, yeah, everyone else was okay, but Rihanna, no.
No, everyone else was really great.
Yeah, everyone has been, they've been so supportive. And these are people who are just, friends of mine that are willing to volunteer their time for this project. It's really pretty humbling, because it's like,
they're great.
Yeah, you guys are great. I'm giving you finger guns.
Mwah.
Yeah.
And bouncing off of that, what was the most challenging thing about when making your first podcast?
Soundscaping the elevator scene. I know I have said this so many times, but honestly, it's so many other things are fine, because it's like, oh, an explosion happens. That's something that has nothing to do with character movement. It's not it's very obvious what an explosion is. And 2 for 1, most people haven't heard a spaceship crash into the ground. Most people haven't heard that. But whenever you're supposed to simulate a person moving around in an environment doing very specific things, that takes a lot of trial and error and stuff. And I won't say that it's perfect, but I will say I am very happy with how it turned out. So it was very challenging, but I would have it no other way. It turned out great.
In my opinion,
yeah,
the most challenging thing for me,
yeah,
in participating with this first podcast,
yeah,
were the animals.
Yeah, you might be able to hear Lex over here crunching his food. I don't know.
I'm sitting here recording, blanket over my head, dog sitting not 2 feet away from me.
Yeah.
And I am hand feeding him his food, one piece of kibble at a time.
That dog.
So he stops pacing and stops barking. He's very spoiled.
He's so spoiled, and he's so smart too, and it makes him really anxious.
Anyway.
He's a good boy.
Last question.
Yeah?
Do you have any plans for future projects? Maybe I guess, simultaneous releases with Mellifera or anything?
Yeah, I've got a few different plates spinning, as it were. I don't
Irons in the fire, as
Yeah.
Vriska Homestuck would say.
I'm gonna ignore that. I've got a few things. Nothing with like a definite release date or even a planned like, oh, about this time I'll release this new thing. But I have another like podcast short sort of thing that I want to do eventually. That's more of a horror thing. It's like, oh, a horror podcast. That's pretty on the nose for what people are into right now. But like, you know,
Wow, how creative.
that's because spooky things are great, guys. Obviously, I have the story with Douglas in it that I love. That I'm going to write more. If you don't know, like,
It's fine if they don't know.
Yeah,
who that
yeah,
is.
like,
It's
I mean,
just
you
another story about
yeah.
some little brat guy.
yeah, it's a fantasy type, like urban fantasies type
fantasy.
thing. I've got like the first chapter of that on my website. If you want to look at it, just be warned that there are no other chapters yet, and it is going to be a long time until there's more. I've also got Apocrypha, which is also the first chapters on there. It's kind of
It's got bugs.
yeah, it's like if Game of Thrones was about bugs, kind of. Well, maybe like knock off Shakespeare, but with bugs, kind of.
I think
That's bad. That's
Game of Thrones has too much sexual content that you would
Yeah.
not, that you are not recreating with bugs. You've got
there's Apocrypha.
so yeah.
Oh, and also my thing that is going to take the longest to do and will probably not come out for a very long time, Shard's Claw, another fantasy story with another character where I'm just trying to work out my own inner stuff. But I love that one, and it will happen eventually. It's just taking a while, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's very personal to you.
Yeah.
You've been working on it since before we met.
Yeah.
So I can understand wanting to have a thorough understanding of what you want to explore, who the characters are, and it keeps changing as you keep getting older and understand yourself more.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that this has kind of been floating in your head for a long time.
Exactly. All right.
So that's all I have.
Well, that was excellent. Thank you so much.
And thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you next month.
See you next month.
Bye.
Bye.